Introduction to waveguides. In this lecture, I will give you a brief overview about different type of waveguides and their modes. The modes that will be discussed here, they are TEM, TM and TE modes. So basically these three modes what I am going to discuss in this lecture are the general description of these modes that I will present here, and then in my next lecture or next successive lectures, I will discuss the modes associated with a particular waveguides. The waveguides are broadly categorized into two groups. First one is the low frequency waveguides and next one is the high frequency waveguides. Low frequency waveguides are the transmission lines such as the twisted pair cables which are used for electrical circuits. So the low frequency waveguide, these transmission lines or the twisted pair cables are called the low frequency waveguides because we know from our previous analysis in skin depth that for high frequencies the conductor appears much more lossy for the high frequency signals or high frequency electromagnetic waves. Therefore, the low frequency uh, signal we for the low frequency signals we generally prefer to use these transmission line or such as twisted pair cables. For high frequency signal, one is at the microwave frequencies, another is at optical frequencies because optical frequency is much higher than the microwave frequency ranges. At microwave frequencies, we generally use the waveguides, the rectangular waveguides and the cylindrical waveguides and the strip lines. But for optical frequencies, the waveguides for carrying the optical signals, we use the optical fiber. Next, the recent one is the photonic crystals and the optical fiber, optical gratings. So these three, or not only these three, there are lots of optical waveguides are there. So, but in microwave frequency range, what we are going to discuss in this particular lecture. So these consist of the mainly rectangular, circular, or cylindrical, and the strip lines. So that will be discussed over here. For the low frequency signal, you can use the such kind of waveguides, but for as frequency goes low, the dimensions of the waveguide gets increased. So that is why for low frequency signals, we generally prefer to use uh, these low cost solutions, that is the transmission line. Generally, we consider three type of modes. First one is the transverse electric and magnetic modes. Next one is the transverse magnetic, and the third one is the transverse electric mode. Transverse mode means the transverse electric and magnetic mode means both the electric field and the magnetic field is perpendicular to the direction of propagations. In this case, I have assumed that the propagation is taking place along the z directions. Therefore, the E field and H field being perpendicular to the direction of the propagations, they must be zero along the Z direction. So Z component of the electric and magnetic field both will be zero, and that defines this condition defines the TEM mode. Similarly, for the transverse magnetic mode, only the magnetic field is zero along the direction of propagations. Therefore, the Z component of the magnetic field will be zero, and that is true for electric field when we'll discuss about the transverse electric mode. The TEM mode can be present in a medium that consists of two conductors separated by some dielectric medium. So that is why we have seen the plane wave is basically a TEM mode, because in the case of plane wave which propagates through an infinite medium, you can consider that the infinite medium is separated by two plate placed at an infinite distance. So that is why the plane wave plane wave is a type of TEM mode. Later on in this lecture, we will see that why TEM mode can be present in a medium consist of two conductors separated by a dielectric medium, and that show you that the two conductors in a two conductor system such as the twisted pair and the parallel plate waveguide, in these two systems the TEM mode can be present. So in the twisted pair cables, the conductors are separated by dielectric medium. The dielectric medium is basically the insulated coating that exists between the twisted pair cables, And the parallel plate waveguides, we'll see here that these are the two conductors which are separated by some dielectric medium that can be either air or any other medium. So for the TEM mode to be present in a particular medium, you must need two conductors separated by some dielectric medium. Next one is a TM. So the TM mode can also be present in the parallel plate waveguide, so rectangular waveguide and circular waveguide. TE mode can also be there for the parallel plate waveguide, rectangular waveguide and circular waveguide. So basically the parallel plate waveguide uh, can support all of these modes, TEM, TE and TM mode. We will see. Origin of modes. In all of my previous lectures, I have assumed the electromagnetic wave propagation based on these expressions. This expression is for electric field and this one is for the magnetic field. These expressions consist of two parts. One is the polarizations part for the electric field and the next one is the propagation part. The polarization part, which is basically the magnitude of this electromagnetic field, that remains constant when I have assumed the medium is infinite, because each of these components remain invariant with respect to the directions. But when I have assumed the medium is semi-infinite, in the case of normal incidence or the oblique incidence, we have seen that this magnitude, the electric field magnitude and the magnetic field magnitude, they undergo uh, some boundary conditions, and based on that boundary conditions, the field magnitude gets changed into the second medium where the wave gets transferred from the first medium. Similarly, if the medium is not even the semi-infinite, and practically no medium can be a semi-infinite, and in a practical medium, when the medium uh, has a dimensional has a limited dimensions uh, or limited extension, then the wave which is propagating within particular medium must undergo successive boundary condition when it encounter the interface between two such mediums, and such kind of boundary conditions may exist in all the three dimensions. As a result, the electric field magnitude, what we have assumed that constant for the infinite medium, that cannot be constant anymore, and they may vary with respect to the directions or the dimensions. So that is why the electric field magnitude then can be represented in terms of the coordinate systems, that is the x, y and z. Therefore, right now the electric field and magnetic field will be represented in a different way than that I have used to represent the electric field and the magnetic field in my earlier lectures. In my earlier lectures, the electric field magnitude part for the electric field and magnetic field, I have assumed they are constant, it is invariant with respect to the space, but right now they are varying with respect to space, that is both x, y and z. But the z directions I have assumed for the directions, the propagations, therefore z directions you can take out uh, by writing these expressions, that means the e to the power minus j kz z. And since I am assuming that the propagation is taking place along z, so therefore the kz is appearing in the expression of e to the power factor. And the polarizations part, that is the magnitude of the electric field, uh, I have assumed the transverse component uh, is by a separate vector, while the longitudinal component I have kept isolated from this vector, and I have represented in this way due to some reasons. Although if you wish, you can keep all of these three components, or you can write all of these three components by a single vector, but you will see later on that there are several advantages if you write in this form. So along with this, one thing I should remind you that each component of this electric and the magnetic field, they are propagating by a similar propagating vector, that is the similar speed, since the e to the power minus j kz times z, this factor is associated with each of these component. So it represents, or it actually signifies that each of these component propagates with a similar speed when it consists of an electromagnetic wave. So keep this particular point in your mind. The general descriptions of the modes. From the Maxwell equation, we know the electric field, the time-dependent electric field, can be represented by the Faraday's law, whereas the time-dependent and space-dependent magnetic field from the Ampere's law can be represented using these expressions. And when you replace the time harmonic expression for the electric field and the magnetic field, so the time-dependent equations will be resulted in this way, where this expression you can call it is time independent expressions for the electric field and the magnetic field. From here we know, in my earlier lecture where I have derived the wave equations, from these two equations I have started to derive the wave equation, but right now we are much more interested to the description of the mode rather than the propagation of the wave, although the propagation of the wave is also an important issue over here. But we know the propagation of the wave can be simply represented by this e to the power factor. That was, in this particular case, as I'm assuming the propagation is taking place along the z directions, so the propagation of the wave uh, is nothing but the representation of the e to the power minus j kz z. So that represents the propagation of the wave. But what about the modes, or that is the components along which directions what are the components may present? So for that reasons we have to analyze these two equations separately to find out each and every electric field and magnetic field at each and every directions. Say in this, for the first case, or in this case, we can write from these Carl equations that the curl of electric field, which can be represented in Cartesian coordinate system in this way, and the curl of magnetic field can also be represented in the way I have presented over here. Now this Ex, Ey and Ez, these are the components along the x, y and z directions. And look at here, Ex means the magnitude which is E naught x depends upon the x and y. Basically this Ex, this component depends x, y and z, but the z component you can write in terms of the propagating wave, because the x component and y component and z component, all of these three components are propagating with a similar speed or similar wave number. So that is why the z component will depend in a similar fashion for each of these three components. However, the x and y component may be different for each of these components. So therefore E naught x represents the magnitude for the x component, which depends only the x and y. Similarly, the same argument is applicable for the y component and the z component of the electric field. Similarly, for the magnetic field also, each component of the magnetic field propagates with a similar speed or similar wave number, but the transverse component, they or the h naught x along the transverse directions, they may be different from each other. That means the x component of the magnetic field may be different than the y component and then the z component. So this is the general assumptions uh, while I'm going to analyze uh, these equations based on this Carl equation for the electric and magnetic field. Here also these may I mean, you have to keep in mind that each of these component is propagating with same kz or same velocity. Next, the evaluation of the curl. If you evaluate these curl expressions for the electric field and the magnetic field, you will end up with these three separate equations, each for each directions. For the x component, the magnetic field will be associated with such an expressions, and the for y component magnetic field, that will be associated with such expressions, and z component will be this one. Similarly, the component of the electric field along x, y and z, they will be associated with the magnetic field based on these Carl equations as I have derived. As I have assumed that the propagation of the wave is taking place along the z direction, and the z dependent part of the electromagnetic field can be represented by that e to the power factor. Therefore, the derivative with respect to the z can be performed over that integral factor, and finally that will result this j times kz times ey for this field, for hx field, and j times kz times ex for hy field. And similarly, the z dependent derivative will perform for the magnetic field also, on these expressions will be resulted. However, you can see from here that the curl operations over the electric field and the magnetic field produce six equations, and it will be difficult to handle these six equations, but there are ways to reduce these six equations into the four equations. You will see the way is that the x component and the y component of both the electric and magnetic field, if you replace or if you represent the x component of the y component of the electric and magnetic field in terms of the component or in terms of the longitudinal component, that means Ez and Hz, then we can represent or we can reduce these six equations into the four equations. And another added advantage is that for if you retain these six equations, each and every time you have to find solutions for each of these components separately. But if you write each of these components in terms of the longitudinal component, then you only have to find the solution for the longitudinal component, and the other will be resulted accordingly. So first of all, I'm giving you one example. How can we represent the hx component in terms of the Ez and Hz? Because the Ez and Hz, that represents the longitudinal component, because the wave propagation is taking place along the direction of the propagation. So here you just only need to Ey from here, just replace over here and simplify it. That means find the expression for Hx, and that's all. So just replace it. Here is the derivations. In the last expression, the Ey gets replaced in the first equation, and the Hx term I have grouped from the left hand side to the right hand side, and finally after a little algebraic steps I have obtained the expression for the Hx over here. In this expression you can see that at the denominator there exists omega square mu times epsilon minus kz square. Now omega square mu times epsilon, that represents the property of the medium, that basically represents the medium itself, because you can write this omega square mu epsilon in this way, k naught square n square, where k naught represents the wave number in free space because it includes the wavelength of the free space. If you write k naught as 2 pi by lambda naught, where lambda is the wavelength of the free space, and n represents the refractive index of the medium, and that depends upon the mu and epsilon. And from my earlier lecture we know, so this represents the magnitude of the propagating vector within a particular medium. So that vector, magnitude of the vector, I have assumed that is in my previous lectures k square, which was a vector in my previous lectures. But right now I'm writing the magnitude of this k is simply by k itself, because I don't want to write all those bars and arrows every time, because I need to use this magnitude several times when I am going to discuss the waveguides and modes and all these things. So I am just representing the magnitude by simply k. So now this part I'm denoting over here by Kc. So Kc is basically root over of k square minus kz square, where k square is this one, omega square mu epsilon. So what is this expression? This expression states that what was kz? Kz is the wave number of the wave, of the incoming wave or the incident wave, and k represents the uh, this is also a wave number, but it represents the maximum number of waves that can be supported by a particular medium, because this k includes the property of the medium through this n or this mu and epsilon. So when you are modeling the property of the properties of the medium in terms of wave number, so that represents the number of waves or the number of cycles that can be present, maximum number of cycles that can be supported by a particular medium. Maximum number of cycles means cycles per meter with respect to the dimensions. So that is the number of wave, or that is why it is called the wave numbers. So the maximum number of wave that can be supported by a medium, that is defined by this k, while the number of waves that present within the incoming waves, that is represented by this kz. Now imagine that uh, the number of waves, or the wave number of the incoming or the incident wave, is less than the maximum supported wave number for the medium, then the wave can propagate with a resultant wave number kc. But if the incoming wave has a wave number greater than the maximum supported wave number of the particular medium, then this expression goes to becomes the imaginary. So therefore, in that case, kc will be imaginary, and the wave will decay exponentially within a particular medium, and that is called the evanescent wave, and that cannot propagate through through a particular medium. We'll see later on these phenomena, that when these wave number of the incoming wave becomes greater than the wave number of the particular medium. However, so these are the steps I have shown over here for only one component, that is the hx, how we can write the each of these component in terms of the longitudinal component, that means ez and hz. And in this way, you can write the hx, hy, ex, ey components in terms of the longitudinal component, and by this way you can reduce the six equations into four. Now the description of the TEM, that means the transverse electromagnetic mode. As I told at the beginning of this lecture, that TEM mode is defined by the longitudinal component is equals to 0. So that is why the longitudinal component I am assuming, that is Ez equals to Hz is equals to 0. So what will be the Hx, Ex, Hy and Hx component? That is the transverse component. Look at these expressions. These expressions you have obtained by replacing all such components and by representing the hx, hy, ex, hy by the longitudinal components. So therefore, if you are going to replace this ez, hz 0 at each of these expressions, so you definitely will get all the components as 0. But that is not true. For that case, for the TEM case, we cannot use this expression. So we have to use the original equations, that is the six equations. So these are the original six equations, three for the magnetic field and three for the electric field, that I have obtained in my earlier slides. And here, if you are going to write this Ez is equals to 0, this equation will result like this, and next one like this, and next one like this. And here, this equation represents the curl of the transverse component, because only Ey and Hx are included in this expression, and the derivative includes with respect to x and with respect to y. So therefore, these equations you can assume that the curl operation for a two-dimensional electric field, which is directed either along the x and along y, and that curl is 0. So the curl of the transverse electric field is 0 for the TEM mode. Similarly, for magnetic field is this one, like this and like this. So the curl operation for the magnetic field is also, transverse component of the magnetic field is 0 also for TEM mode. Now if we can see from these two equations that there exists Ey, Hx, Hx. So if we group together, similarly, if we group these two expressions together, and from there, if we replace this hy from one equation to another, or ex from one equation to the other, or from the previous expressions, if we replace hx from one to the previous one, and ey from one to the other one, so all of this replacement will result the same equations, that is kz is equals to omega times root over mu epsilon, and that is the k what I have assumed in my last slide. So therefore, for TEM mode, the kz always will be equals to k. That means the uh, incoming wave number, the incident wave number will be always equals to the maximum supported wave number of the medium, and that results the cutoff wave number is equals to 0, which means that for TEM mode there is no low frequency cutoff. All electromagnetic wave with all frequencies can propagate through the TEM modes. Now, this is the intrinsic impedance of this TEM mode from these two expressions. And either of these two sets of equations, you can easily find out what is the intrinsic impedance of this mode, and that is nothing but this eta, which is its own intrinsic impedance. What I have calculated for the plane wave case, that is appearing also over here, because plane wave is also a TEM mode. So that is why the intrinsic impedance for the TEM and the plane wave case are matching over here. At this stage, what we have obtained? We have obtained the expression for the cutoff wave number, and that is 0 Kc, it is 0. Expression for the intrinsic impedance for TEM mode, and the solution for the longitudinal component for the TEM mode. And obviously they are 0. Ez and Hz, they are 0. Yet we have to obtain the solution for the transverse component, that means the magnetic field as well as the electric field, and that we can easily obtain from this expression, that means by using the wave equations. So in that wave equation, uh, you can use this wave equation to get a solution for the x component, y component for the electric field and the magnetic field, as I have written over here. And you can see from these expressions that at each and every equations I have used this k, because since the electromagnetic wave is propagating through a particular medium, so each component must depend on the same k factor. So therefore, each equation include the same k, uh, and that is why I have used over here. Now, as we know that each of these component is propagating with the same speed and same uh, kz. So if you replace this ex by its z dependent expression and xy dependent expression, because this ex right now we don't know how it depends on the x and y directions, but we know how it depends on the propagating direction, and that is that the dependencies of this ex, ey, hx and hy along direction of the propagation is based on the e to the power factor, that is e to the power minus j times kz times z. So if you replace it over here, so this derivative will be operated on the z dependent part, and at that will happen at each and every component and each and every expressions, and finally the z derivative will bring this kz factor out from these ex, ey and hy and hx at each and every expressions. And therefore, since this for the TEM mode, Kz and K are equal, since the cutoff wave number is equal to 0, so these two factors gets cancelled, and these are the final expressions what you can obtain for the TEM mode by considering that Kz is equals to K. That equation can further be written in terms of the transverse gradient operator, because as you see in my last slide that this k square term gets cancelled due to these kz terms, which is appearing by this operation of this del square over the z dependent factor, leaving only the transverse gradient operator operating over this kx over this ex, ey, hx and ey is equals to 0. Now what are these equations? These equations are Laplace equations, because remember that the Laplace equations which is being followed by the potential or the electrostatic potential like this. So phi, I'm assuming there is electrostatic potential, and like the way phi is following a Laplace equation, in a similar fashion the electric field, magnetic field in the transverse directions are following the Laplace equation. So what is the significance of these Laplace equations? A Laplace equation is generally followed by the scalar quantity as the electrostatic potential. So for the electrostatic potential, it means that there is a gradient of the potential, and we know that the gradient of the potential is nothing but the electric field. So the gradient exists when there are two separate conductors uh, which are separated by some dielectric medium as shown in this diagram. So two separate conductors, and they are at different potential V1 and V2 along the y directions. Although since it is a conductor extended up along the x and z direction, so the potential is same along the x and z directions. The potential is, you can say, it is invariant along the x direction and z directions, although I'm assuming the z direction is the propagating direction. So the along the transverse direction, that means the x direction, the potential is invariant. Similarly, for the top plate, the potential is invariant along the x direction, but along the y direction they gets varied, and at y equals to minus d by 2, it is connected with the v1 external voltage source. So that is it. That is why uh, it is getting a voltage v1 over the entire sheet of this conductor, and for the top plate it is at y is equal to d by 2, and it has a potential v2. Therefore, along the y direction, so there exists a gradient, and that is why the potential, the electric field is also directed along the y directions over here. And these expressions defines the relation between electric field and the potential. The significance of the Laplace equations is that when a scalar follows a Laplace equations, that means there must be a gradient as like the potential. For the TEM mode, each and every component which are scalar component, because when you are considering the entire electromagnetic vector, or the amplitude of the, or the polarization vector, then each and every component are included within the polarization vector, and as a whole they represent a vector. But when you are going to consider each and every component separately, so they are the scalars. So Ex itself scalar, Ey itself scalar, Ez itself a scalar. But they are a function of x, y, and z. But they are scalar quantity, and that is why when they are following the Laplace equations, that means there must be some gradient operator for them also. And that is why this TEM mode can be present for a system consist of two conductor separated by some dielectric medium, because if these two conductors are not separated, they are closed conductors such as waveguide, what I have shown in my in my slide at the beginning of this lecture. For a closed conductor, you cannot establish two different voltages for two different plane. That means for the top plane you cannot specify the V1 V2, and for the bottom plane you cannot specify V1, because once you will connect one voltage source at one of its plane, since the conductor is closed, so the entire conductor will have the similar potential, will be at the similar potential. So for a closed conductor, the potential either is constant or zero. So if it is constant, the gradient will produce the zero electric field. So the transverse electric field will be the electric field for the closed conductors, that is going to be zero. So therefore, the TEM mode cannot be present for a closed conductor or for the waveguides, what I'm going to discuss in my successive lectures. So for plane wave and for the parallel plate waveguides, that is the two plates separated by some dielectric medium, the TEM mode can be present over there. Description of the TE mode. For the TE mode, as we know, the transverse electric mode, so electric field is perpendicular to the direction of propagation. That means it must have no component along the direction of the wave. So Ez must be zero. So right now we can use our reduced equation. That means the each of these component, what I have represented in terms of the longitudinal component, we can easily use this expression, where if you replace Ez is equals to zero, so the following equations will be resulted as I have written over here. And but here you have to notice one thing, that Kc is not equals to zero, as we have observed for the TEM case. And the intrinsic impedance, you can easily figure it out, either Ex Hy or Hx Ey. If you take the similar ratio similarly as I've taken for the TEM mode, the intrinsic impedance is a bit different than the previous one. So this is the expression for the intrinsic impedance. Now the solution for the transverse component. You can easily do, or you can easily find out the solution or for the transverse component by following the previous steps what I have followed. That means these equations you can write for each and every component. But the much more easier and better way is follow the solution or to find the solution for hz, and uh, since your each of every component are right now defined in terms of the hz, so if you get the solution for the hz, directly use that solution to find out the solution for all other components. So as here you can see that you can easily find the solution of the hz by writing the wave equation for the hz component, and the this operator, when it will be operated on the z dependent part of the hz, so it will bring out this kz out, but you cannot cancel these two right now because kz is not equals to k, and you have to return this kc over here. And based on the boundary given boundary conditions, if you solve this expression, so you can find the expression for hz. Next is the tm mode. For the tm mode, we know that the magnetic field will be perpendicular to the direction of the propagation. Therefore, Hz should be 0. And if you place Hz in the 4 reduced equation, the transverse component of the magnetic field and electric field will be resulted as shown in this expression. And there, here also Kc is not equals to 0, and you can easily figure it out this Ez over here, because in order to find all of these components, since all of them are right now written in terms of this Ez, so finding the solution for Ez will automatically find the solution for all other components. So in this way we can easily find out the all the components for Tm mode and TE mode and TEM mode also. So that's all for today.